Donald Hoffman opens the podcast by challenging the common assumption that the world we perceive is the true reality. He likens our experience of the world to wearing a virtual reality headset, where everything we see, hear, and feel is a constructed simulation designed by our brain. This VR analogy suggests that our sensory perceptions are not direct windows into objective reality, but rather adaptive interfaces shaped to help us survive and reproduce. Hoffman emphasizes that just as a gamer wearing a VR headset is unaware of the computer code running the game, we too are unaware of the deeper reality beyond our sensory experience. Hoffman extends this metaphor by positioning himself as the programmer who understands the code behind the simulation. From this vantage point, he claims the ability to edit the code, opening the door to technologies far beyond our current understanding, including concepts like time travel and instantaneous movement across vast cosmic distances. This perspective reframes reality as a dynamic, malleable construct rather than a fixed, objective truth, inviting us to reconsider the nature of existence itself. A central theme in Hoffman's work is the evolutionary argument that our sensory systems were not designed to reveal truth, but to enhance survival and reproductive success. Drawing on Darwinian principles, he explains that evolution favors organisms that perceive only what is necessary to navigate their environment effectively, not those that see reality as it truly is. This is because perceiving the full truth would be energetically costly and cognitively inefficient, potentially hindering survival. Hoffman supports this claim with mathematical proofs and computer simulations, demonstrating that organisms tuned to perceive objective reality are outcompeted by those that perceive simplified, fitness-enhancing user interfaces. He illustrates this with examples such as the jewel beetle, whose males mistake beer bottles for females due to superficial visual cues. This example underscores how evolution prioritizes utility over accuracy, shaping perception as a survival tool rather than a truth detector. Hoffman challenges the conventional scientific view that spacetime, the fabric of our physical universe, is the fundamental reality. He explains that modern physics, including Einstein's theories in quantum mechanics, reveals that spacetime breaks down at extremely small scales, around 10^33 centimeters, where it loses all meaningful structure. This suggests that spacetime is not the ultimate substrate of reality, but rather a virtual reality headset, through which consciousness perceives a limited projection of a far richer, more complex domain. By framing spacetime as a constructed interface, Hoffman invites us to imagine a reality that transcends the familiar dimensions of space and time. This view aligns with certain interpretations in theoretical physics that posit deeper informational or geometric structures underlying the universe. For Hoffman, this means that what we experience as physical objects and events are akin to rendered images in a VR game, dependent on the observer's perspective and the underlying code of consciousness. Contrary to mainstream physicalist science, which holds that consciousness emerges from brain activity, Hoffman argues that consciousness is fundamental and primary. He posits that the brain and physical reality itself are constructs generated by consciousness, not the other way around. This inversion of the usual causal order challenges deeply ingrained scientific assumptions and opens new avenues for understanding the mind and the universe. Hoffman supports this view by pointing out the persistent hard problem of consciousness, the inability of physicalist theories to explain why and how subjective experience arises from neural processes. He critiques current scientific models for failing to identify specific physical states that correspond to particular conscious experiences, such as the taste of mint. Instead, he proposes a mathematical theory of conscious agents as the foundational building blocks of reality, from which spacetime and matter emerge. Hoffman highlights the vast differences in sensory perception among animals as further evidence that our human experience is not a direct reflection of reality. For instance, bats use echolocation to navigate, perceiving the world through sound rather than sight, while some fish detect electric fields, and certain birds see polarized light. These varied sensory modalities create fundamentally different worlds for each species, none of which can claim to be the objective truth. This diversity underscores the idea that perception is tailored to an organism's ecological niche and survival needs rather than to revealing an absolute reality. Hoffman suggests that just as a bat's echolocation map is a survival tool, human sensory systems are similarly limited and specialized. This challenges anthropocentric views and invites humility regarding our understanding of the universe. Hoffman delves into the psychological and philosophical implications of his theory, emphasizing that much of human suffering arises from mistaken beliefs about the self and reality. He explains that we often identify with our avatars, our bodies, roles, and social identities, leading to competition, inadequacy, and distress. Recognizing that these are constructs within the VR headset of spacetime can free us from these limiting narratives. He advocates for a meditative practice of dropping all concepts and stories about the self to experience pure awareness beyond the avatar. This approach aligns with spiritual traditions that emphasize transcending ego and duality. Hoffman acknowledges the difficulty of this process, especially in the face of fear and attachment, but suggests it is key to realizing our true nature as the infinite consciousness behind the simulation. Reflecting on his own near-death experiences and health challenges, Hoffman discusses the phenomenon of near-death experiences, NDEs, and their implications for consciousness. He acknowledges the common reports of tunnels, lights, and life reviews during cardiac arrest, and suggests that these experiences may offer glimpses of consciousness beyond the physical body and spacetime. While cautious about making definitive scientific claims, Hoffman expresses openness to the idea that consciousness persists beyond bodily death, consistent with his theory that consciousness is fundamental and not produced by the brain. He encourages further scientific investigation into NDEs and related phenomena, recognizing their potential to deepen our understanding of reality. Hoffman positions his work at the crossroads of science and spirituality, arguing that both domains point toward a reality that transcends spacetime and physical form. He emphasizes that scientific theories are always provisional and incomplete, covering effectively 0% of ultimate reality due to their inherent assumptions and limitations. This leaves room for spiritual insights that recognize the infinite, ineffable nature of consciousness. Hoffman suggests that true knowledge of the self comes not from conceptual theories, but from direct experience, being yourself without mental filters. He sees this as a unifying perspective that bridges scientific inquiry and spiritual wisdom, encouraging openness and humility in both. Hoffman discusses the profound ethical questions raised by the possibility of editing the code of reality, akin to a programmer modifying a virtual world. He acknowledges the potential for miraculous technologies that could transcend current physical limitations, such as instantaneous travel or even time manipulation, but also warns of Pandora's box and unforeseen consequences. The moral responsibility of wielding such power is immense, and Hoffman stresses the importance of love and compassion as guiding principles. He draws parallels to historical technological leaps, like nuclear weapons, which brought both power and peril. Ultimately, he suggests that the transcendent consciousness underlying all avatars remains unharmed by these changes, but the ethical use of such technologies remains a critical concern. Throughout the conversation, Hoffman critiques physicalist theories of consciousness for their inability to explain subjective experience. He challenges proponents to identify specific physical states that correspond to particular conscious qualities, a task they have yet to accomplish. This explanatory gap motivates his development of a mathematical framework based on conscious agents. His conscious agent network theory aims to derive the structure of spacetime, quantum phenomena, and physical laws from the interactions of fundamental conscious entities. Hoffman recently presented work showing how aspects of Einstein's relativity, such as the constancy of the speed of light, can emerge from this theory. This approach promises a radical rethinking of physics grounded in consciousness rather than matter. In closing, Hoffman offers practical guidance for living in light of these profound insights. He emphasizes the centrality of unconditional love, loving your neighbor as yourself, rooted in the recognition that all beings are expressions of the same infinite consciousness. This ethic transcends religious boundaries and calls for compassion, non-judgment, and acceptance. He also encourages maintaining childlike curiosity and humility, recognizing that reality is far more vast and mysterious than we can imagine. Hoffman admits his own ongoing struggles with fear and attachment, but sees the path of awakening as one of gradually disidentifying from the avatar and embracing the infinite self.